fleeing for their lives, carrying their most precious possessions. Since last August, around 700,000 Rohingya Muslims have endured many miles and much misery to escape violence in Myanmar that the UN says could constitute genocide.
It's a human tragedy of enormous proportions. People came over to Bangladesh in a flood in a very short period of time. It was one of the most rapidly rising situations of forced displacement that we've seen in decades.
Other hotspots have flared up in the past year. Fresh fighting in the Democratic Republic of the Congo forced tens of thousands of people a day to make the precarious crossing of Lake Albert into Uganda, a country already hosting over 1.4 million refugees. While the economic and constitutional crisis in Venezuela has pushed people to the country's borders, looking for better opportunities abroad.
So much more pressure could be put on the Maduro government to improve things, but it hasn't happened. Hopefully that will change. Hopefully we will see a more proactive effort in both the Human Rights Council and here in New York, but it remains to be seen if that's going to happen.
But new problems arise without old ones being solved, and tented cities in South Sudan, Lebanon and Iraq continue to swell.
These conflicts are starting to mushroom and not being mitigated enough and not being solved. And so what we're seeing are a global rise in forced displacement.
And while the UN is engaged in aid efforts in multiple countries, it's been criticised for not doing enough to engage repressive or complicit governments.
Where is the UN in all of these migrant crises around the world? It doesn't seem like the UN is really leading on these issues in these localities, nor is it really talking about this as a global issue.
And despite anti-migrant rhetoric from some Western nations, it's not these wealthier countries coming to the aid of the world's displaced. The UN estimates that 85% of migrants and refugees are hosted by poorer, developing countries. Just this month, the US reduced the number of refugees it will accept next year to 30,000 from 45,000 in 2018, while Hungary this year slashed its daily quota of asylum seeker admissions to just 2, down from 60 in 2016. But at this year's General Assembly, the migrant issue will be largely sidelined until the UN's Intergovernmental Conference in Marrakesh in December. Until then, the UN hopes the millions of migrants and refugees will be remembered as more than just statistics. Nick Harper, CGTN, New York.